Hey, welcome back to day 23, I think, of Project Me. Truth be told, really not much to report on today, so today will actually, for the first time maybe, be a short video. So I'm actually quite excited about that. I don't know why, it's not anything particularly extra, but just a shorter video, because I guess I'm finally able to do it. Well, we'll see, but I hope so. In any case, yeah, so today spent the day pretty much with mum and dad. Woke up quite late, just trying to catch up on lost sleep, I think. And I'm not too harsh on myself, I definitely could have spent less time scrolling on social media after I woke up. I really should not have done that. But hey, first morning really that I've let myself properly sleep in for, so I'm happy. I'm happy regardless. But yeah, after that, out to lunch with mum and dad. Then went to visit a relative who's aging, and you just have to see it. You got to spend time with some family. And lastly, came home. Then went out to dinner with mum and dad, which was nice. And came back, sat with my flatmates for a bit because it's one of their birthdays, and gave them the gifts, the card, and yeah, here we are. Besides that, really just been working on this poem of mine. It's got a bit of work left to do. I've written down the very rough draft. And the way I tend to write my poetry is I tend to scope out, I like my rhymes. So I tend to scope out, the message of the gist of what's on each line and how it rhymes with the next line that it needs to rhyme with, and so on. So I plan out the structure of the poem, and then I go through and write the gist of what I want to say with the rhyming word at the end. And I just do that through the entire poem. And now I'm going to go through, refine the draft, check out the syllables, make sure I have the right amount of syllables in each line, and make sure that the rhythm of speech and the cadence flows well with it. So, a bit of work left to go. Maybe I'll read it out tomorrow or something. But I'm quite happy with how it's gone so far. Just the first draft. But looking forward to continue working on it, which is cool. It's been a while since I've written a poem, so quite especially excited about how this one's turned out. It's actually inspired a little bit by King Theoden's speech in the Battle of Pelennor Fields and Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Partly inspired by that in terms of some of the language used, only some of the language. But of course Tolkien was inspired by an old Norse poem about Ragnarok, the world's ending. So, learning from a master who in turn learnt from some legendary poet from well over 1,000 years ago. But in any case, yeah, so really not much to report on in terms of, any emotional burden to report. I hope that made sense. Any emotional burden, nothing to report on. In any case. Yeah, so we're just going to get straight on to, because we have time, the Daily Stoic with Ryan Holiday. So today is March 27th, 25th. My goodness. I can never get the date right when I do this. Okay. Where to find joy. And this is a quote from Marcus Aurelius. Joy for human beings lies in proper human work. And proper human work consists in acts of kindness to other human beings, disdain for the stirrings of the senses, identifying trustworthy impressions, and contemplating the natural order and all that happens in keeping with it. It's a nice little quote. Let's see what Ryan Holiday has to say. He says, when dog trainers are brought into work with a dysfunctional, unhappy dog, they usually start with one question. Do you take it for walks? They ask because dogs were bred to do certain tasks, to do work, and when deprived of this essential part of their nature, they suffer and act out. This is true no matter how spoiled and nice their life might be. The same is true for humans. When you hear the Stoics brush aside certain emotions or material luxuries, it's not because they don't enjoy them. It's not because the Stoic life is one bereft of happiness or fun. The Stoics simply meant to help us find our essence, to experience the joy of our proper human work. I mean, you look at some of the things my generation is grappling with, like mental health. And then you also look at some of the things that plague my generation, social media. And you see a correlation, right? In my experience, the people who most struggle with with mental health are those that can't tear themselves away from social media. Now, correlation is not causation, but I think it's fair to say there's definitely a reasonable cause to believe that there is causation here. Social media does, in fact, cause mental health problems. Now, it's not the rule. There are plenty of exceptions, and there are plenty of other rules as well for why that may be the case. But in my view, it's not unreasonable to point the finger at social media. And what I'm getting at is that humans, that we as people, are meant to do something that is not sitting in front of a phone and looking at whatever it may be. It's getting out there, you know. One of my favorite quotes actually from Tolkien is, I'll see if I can do it in my best Gandalf voice. The world isn't in your books and your maps. It's out there. I can't do a Gandalf voice, but hopefully that gets the message across. And on another note, Sylvia Plath has a beautiful, beautiful quote, and in it she says, oh god, I can't remember what she said, damn it. But I'll see if I can remember, because it's beautiful. It's so particularly relevant in my case, and I'm sure it will be relevant to so many other people in my generation, or just anyone actually, not necessarily stuck into my generation. But she says, your room isn't your prison. Go outside. And overly simplistic at first, right? I mean, that's your impression. I mean, it sounds so simple. But I think often the most beautiful things are the simplest, right? Last year, for example, I found myself so isolated, looking back, because I just spent all my time in my room. Well, that's not true. I spent lots of time outside it, but I spent a lot more time than I should have in my room. I didn't go outside. I didn't see the sun. I didn't feel the rain. I didn't see people. I didn't meet people. You know? We, as people, we're social creatures. It doesn't matter how much we disdain the company of our peers. We still need it. Even if you don't want it, there is some part of you that still needs it. And to ignore that part, I think, is to do yourself a great disservice. I don't have too much else to say besides that, but you're human. Go outside. Feel the rain fall on your skin. Feel the rays of sunshine. Just be you outside. Don't isolate yourself in some remote corner of the world and expect things to happen to you. If you want to feel fulfilled, you have to go out and take it. Right? At least that's how I look at it. And oftentimes I fail to capitalize on that piece of advice that I just gave to you. I fail in that. But very often I try to live up to that as well, and that's all that matters, you know. Half the battle is knowing that you're trying. It's knowing that you've made an attempt. Oftentimes, when you talk to yourself, that inner voice, it's that you tried. It's not about whether... Well, it depends on how you frame, the conversation in your head. But frankly, if I'm going to go out for a 5k run and I only make it 4k, the logical and rational and mature thing to do is to recognize, acknowledge that you made it 4k to begin with. You said you're going to do something, and you died in the attempt. So be it. There is nothing more noble than to perish in pursuit of the great and impossible. Right? That's a quote from Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche. There's no reason not to try. And I think that's the meaning of life. Right there. To die in pursuit of the great and impossible. There is no greater purpose. But I digress. That's quite enough for today. Gratitude, we'll finish on that. I am grateful to Mum and Dad. Thank you so much for paying for my meals today. It's just nice to hang around you guys and, all the love. Truly. Truly. Yeah. Second of all, I am grateful to the birthday girl today. She's turning 20, and oftentimes we do have our differences, but she is a wonderful person. Yeah, just grateful to have her in my life. Thirdly, grateful to the relative that I went to see today, and her husband, great auntie and great uncle. They're not actually related by blood, but they were my grandmother's best friend. She was my grandmother's best friend for over 60 years. And, just today, the topic of my grandmother came up, and I could see the tears in her eyes forming, and it just broke me. Truly, I can't imagine. Well, I can, but I can't truly understand what that feels like to have a best friend and be side by side for over 60 years, only to have them torn away from you. That heart-wrenching feeling of loss must be dreadful. But she perseveres, and it feels so odd to say that me, someone at least 65 years her junior, can say I'm proud of her, but I'm proud of her. And I'm really grateful that she's been such a wonderful friend to my grandmother, even though I never knew it. Well, you know something, but you don't know it, But in any case, that's it for today. Just grateful to have her in my life, and in my grandmother's life as well. My grandmother was a sweet woman. Bless her soul. And that's it for today. Wherever you are, I hope you have a wonderful day. And take care.